Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a day after analysis. I had this 11.5-inch Palmetto out to 500 yards. So we're going to be talking about the accuracy and we're going to be talking about like how much energy was delivered and are we actually accomplishing anything with this 11.5-inch AR pistol, right, out to 500 yards. Okay, so let me put this down. And let me show you the grouping. Okay, so I did. Where are we? So first I did I shot at 400 yards. So at 400 yards, I got five shot group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, the ones with the circle. So we got 5 out of 5 for 14 inches, which is 3.5 MOA, and the 4 out of 5, which is these 4 shots. Okay. Right over here, which I often look because that allows for the ammunition being a little bit off, or maybe I pulled my shot. So the 4 out of 5, okay, was 9 inches, okay, for 2.25 MOA at 400 yards, okay. So then I went to 500 yards, okay. So at 500 yards, these are the shots without the circles around down here, right? So of the 5 shots, only 4 landed on target. So 1, 2, 3, and 1 out here. Okay, so we got 4 out of 5 for 13.25 inches. That works out to 2.6 MOA. 4 out of 5 shots. And like I said earlier, I usually look at the best 4 out of 5. Okay? And a really interesting thing here is I got 3 shots over here at 500 yards that landed really tight. Let's take a look at that. These 3 shots, and I normally don't look at 3 shots, but this is just so interesting. The 3 shots is 6 inches, okay, at 500 yards. So that's interesting. So I think that works out to, I think maybe 1.25 MOA, something like that. But anyway, so by the way, the ammunition I was using was Wolf Gold. Okay, so I wasn't using like 77 grains, match grade ammo. I was just using, cheap target ammunition, Wolf Gold, 55 grains. Okay, and if we average all this thing, if we, between the 400 and 500 yards, right? I mean, this is because we got the 3.5 there, 2.25, 2.6. Let's say 3 MOA. Okay, we're getting 3 MOA. Okay, we're gonna get about 3 MOA with target ammo out to 500 yards. Now, when I shot this, I was using this CB Life bipod. Okay, I've talked about this in other videos. And I was not bagged in the back. Okay, so I was just using the bipod. The bipod did not have a bag in the back. If I use a bag in the back, right, on the stock, under the stock here, I do get more accurate groups. It was not practical because basically I was carrying the tripod in one hand, so I had the gun slung on my back. With this sling over here. I've talked about this. Is the Brash Tactical Awesome Sling. You can't get it anymore. They discontinued it, but it's 75 inches long, so it works good over a big jacket or a plate carrier or something. So I had the sling rifle on my back. I'm carrying the tripod. So carrying a bag. I mean, it just was a little bit too cumbersome. So that's why I shot this off the bipod without using a bag in the back. Okay, so that's and I got about a 3 MOA group at 500 yards. Okay? So let's talk about the optics here. So the optics here, okay, we got the Holosun 503G, right? That has the ACSS reticle, and then the Vortex 6X magnifier behind it. Okay, so again, I've talked about these optics in a different video, but it's been a while since I've had this gun out to 500 yards. So I said let's do a day after analysis. Let me move the camera a little bit closer here. I'll point it up at these numbers. Okay, so this is what my reticle looks like. I've got the horseshoe, I got the chevron, right, and I got the 3 dots underneath it, okay? So I've got a 50, 200 yard zero, right? So at the tip there, that'll get me from 50 yards all the way out to 200 yards. Inside of 50 yards, I'm putting the entire chevron on the target and just using the whole thing as a bullseye. Okay, so at 300 yards, I'm using the legs. Okay, I shot that in a prior video, I think about a week or two ago. So at 300 yards, I'm using the legs. At 400 yards, I'm using that first dot. Okay, at 500 yards, I'm using the second dot. Okay, and I did not get out to 600 yards. I mean, it just wasn't available at this location. So at 400 yards, when I shot the 400 yards, what I was doing on the target here. So at 400 yards, I had the dot, that first dot there, just on, basically underneath the top of the paper here. Okay, and I saw that I was impacting here. So what I did is when I went to 500 yards, what I did is I took that dot because I was afraid that, because I'm using an 11.5 inch barrel, so I thought I was going to have more of a drop. So I took my second dot there, the 500 yard dot, and I put that on top of the paper, okay, which was a good call because my bullets dropped down here. Okay, so this is really telling me something. If I was to get to 600 yards, what I would want to do is basically I would take this 36 inches over here, and this would be my holdover. So whatever the size of the paper is over here, that would be my holdover to target in order to make shots at the 600 yards. Okay, so here, let me give you guys a close-up of the reticle. Okay, so again, that's my 5200s at the tip. The legs over here are 300, first dot 400, 500, and then that would be 600 over there. Okay, back you guys up a little bit. So here's the thing: when you look at this reticle without the magnifier, basically you can't make out the details over here. Let me get a marker. What this is going to look like without the magnifier, get a little closer. Without the magnifier, what you're going to see is you're going to kind of see the arrow, okay, and then you're going to see like the three dots are going to kind of like merge into one over here. So you're not going to be able to make out the dots. So you have to, this is designed to be used with the magnifier. You got to use the magnifier in order for this thing to work. Okay, that's what it's designed for, and they have to do it that way because basically if they space the dots out to any more than this, then you won't be able to use it at 400 and 500 yards. So, basically you'll be trying to get to. If they spaced it out more, it's not going to allow you to shoot and hold on these distances. Okay, this is intended for a 16-inch barrel, right? So I'm using an 11.5 inch, which is the reason why, like at 500 yards, I had to hold my dot at the top of the paper, and why I'm estimating that at 600 yards, I'd have to take the 36, I'd have to use the paper as a holdover. So I'd have to go about the full length of the paper over the target, or 36 inches over the target, in order to make my hits at 600 yards. Okay, so let's look at the energy. So I was using Wolf Gold. So point you guys up a little bit. Wolf Gold, 55 grains. The velocity was 2504 feet per second. So that's really slow. Okay, so this is like the same speed as Tula. Okay, so this is really slow ammunition. The reason why I use it is because I got a whole bunch of it. Basically I didn't have a whole bunch of like match grade ammo. So I said, what, this stuff I've hit 1 inch at 100 yards a lot of times. So that's the reason why I'm taking this stuff. So I didn't care that I knew it was slower ammunition because I had already run it through the chronograph. And I said, this is what's going to get me out to 500 yards. Okay. So, at the muzzle, let me point you guys down a little bit. At the muzzle, the energy is 766. Okay, so we're already starting off less than 1,000 foot-pounds. Clearly this is a pistol. This is like what a 44 Magnum would be giving us. Okay, so 766 at the muzzle. At 100 yards, 639. At 200 yards, 531. At 300 yards, 437. At 400 yards, 356. Okay, so 356, we're basically now like a 9mm. Okay, and at 500 yards, 286. So at 500 yards, we're now like a 38 special. Okay, now by comparison to the green tips, right, in the 11.5 inch barrel, So these are speeds that I've gotten out of the 11.5, on same gun. Okay, so at the muzzle, it gets 1,004. Okay, with the green tips, 62 grains. At 100 yards, we're getting 844. 200 yards, 704. 300 yards, 584. 400 yards, 480, and at 500 yards, we're getting 390. Okay, so we're like a 40 cal over here. So it's like a 38 special versus a 40 caliber. Okay, so that's what we're that's what the energy is going to be at 500 yards. And we're going to talk about in a minute how effective it is, but I want to talk about the effect of the wind. Okay, so and this I got out of the ballistic calculator. If I have a full value 10 mile per hour wind, meaning that the wind is hitting me sideways, right? Full value sideways, okay? At 500 yards, okay, with the Wolf Gold, which is going a little bit slower, it would move my bullet about 6 minutes of angle, 6 MOA, which basically comes out to about 3 feet, okay? And with the green tips, okay, at 500 yards, again, with the 10 mile per hour wind, full value sideways, that would move me about 5 MOA. So basically about 2.5 feet, okay? So regardless of whether you're using green tips or the slower Wolf Gold, I mean, if you got a wind coming full value, it's going to move your bullet. It's going to move you off target and move you back a little bit more. So the average man being about 2 feet wide, if it's at 500 yards, if the wind's blowing your bullets 3 feet right or left, that's gonna be a solid miss. When I was shooting, the background was such that there was no way to spot impacts, and it's not likely. Like even if I had, let's say I was shooting like in a sandy or dirt area that was dry. With the 6 magnification, it is not likely I would be able to spot the impacts. So pretty much, going into this, it's like, whatever dope, whatever data you have going into it is all you have to work with it. And unless you've got somebody, there next to you with a more powerful scope that can actually see the impacts, I mean, this is what you're gonna do. And if you got a side wind. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, now you can, the way it works is if you have a 5 mile per hour wind hitting you sideways, basically what you would do is you would hold on the tip. Let me get you back up here. If you had a full value 5 mile per hour wind, you would hold on the edge of that chevron. If you thought that the wind was 10 miles per hour, you would just double that distance. So you can kind of make your shots if you've got the wind, but still, the thing with the wind is it's really hard to judge the wind, all right, because the wind does different things at different distances across along 500 yards. When I was shooting yesterday at the 500 yards, there was no wind at my shooting position. There was no wind where the target was, but there was wind in between, right, in the valley in between, because there was no trees there. So there was like wind, at the halfway point. And I've been there other times. Sometimes I've got wind at my shooting position. I'll have wind at let's say my target position, but there's no wind in between. So it can go either way. I mean, it's hard to know what the wind is doing across 500 yards unless you've got wind ribbons all along the way. And also what can happen is the wind can be doing different things at different elevations, right? Because remember, we're at 500 yards, we're holding over, right? We're using these dots here to hold over. So the wind can be doing something different, whatever, like let's say 6 feet above the ground, right? Or 10 feet above the ground versus where you are feeling it on the ground. Okay, so that's another thing with the wind. The best way to factor wind in is to actually have a spotter that can spot the impact. But if you don't, I mean, you're just going to have to make the best of it. Now, when I was shooting, I had the wind behind me, okay? So I did have like a 3 to 5 mile per hour at times wind, but it was coming behind me. There was a couple times where it did move, like it did blow some of the bullets off target because I did do a bunch of shooting. At times it did blow like 4, like if I took 5-shot group, like, one shot would get pushed to the left or to the right. And what I would try to do is I would try to time my shots, right? So if I saw that there was a gust of wind, I would just wait until the wind died down and I took my shots. Okay, so try to minimize the effect of the wind by timing my shots. Okay, so that's the data on the 11.5-inch out to 500 yards. So let me pull you guys a little further back. By the way, the reason why we are indoors is because it is very windy out today. And if I'm outside trying to hold these big papers up over here, the wind is just like blowing them all over the place. And this board too, the wind will just blow it all over the place. So that's why I needed to do this video indoor. What I want to do is I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about this 11.5-inch. Point the camera down a little bit more, which I think is like an absolutely awesome gun. Okay, so this is the first gun that I can call a do-it-all gun. Okay, so in the past, I was a big I didn't believe so much in AR pistols, short barrel guns. The reason is because with a 5.56 or even a 7.62 2x39, if you have a rifle or an intermediary round in something shorter than 16 inches, they tend to be obnoxiously loud, and it tends to become a distraction. Okay, because if the noise is too much, because like usually with the 7.5 inches, and even sometimes with this one, before I put a muzzle device on it, I'd have to double up on the ear protection, right? Because otherwise it would just distract me, and I'd be kind of bracing for that loud crack. So I had this muzzle device here. This is a Radical Firearms Spitfire, which I bought, it came on one of my 7.5-inch AR pistols way back in 2015. And the thing is, on the 7.5-inch, it really wasn't that effective, right? Because it was still obnoxiously loud. I still had to double up on the ear protection. However, when I put it on this 11.5-inch, oh man, what a difference. I can shoot this 11.5-inch now with just the little ear cushions that go inside. So on the 11.5-inch, this muzzle device works excellent, okay? It's not a suppressor, but I think it comes pretty damn close, okay? Yes, at least from my position, to the shooter, to my ears, this is pretty good, okay? I still have to wear ear protection, all right? It's not ear safe. But the cool thing is, when I was shooting this at the 500 yards, okay, first of all, the bang from the muzzle, it's like a much lower tone, so it changes the tone. And the other thing that I could hear, which I normally can't hear, I could hear the bullets whistling out. Okay, I could hear the whistling. So there'd be like a low tone bang, and then I could hear the bullets whistling down over 500 yards. It sounded like one of those the Jap rockets, right? When you shoot fireworks and they streak through the air. And that's what it sounded like. I had not shot suppressors for a very long time. And usually when I shoot them, I'm shooting them at relatively close distances. So inside of 200 yards, you're not going to hear that whistling because it just doesn't last long enough. But over 500 yards, you're going to hear that whistling. So it was so cool to hear that whistling as the bullets were going out towards the range. I wasn't expecting it. So after I heard the first one, I was like, what is that sound? And then I realized what was happening. I realized I was hearing the bullets whistling downrange. So that is so cool. So I got the muzzle device here. So this muzzle device allows this gun to be a do-it-all gun. Now with the 16-inch guns, what happens is if I load up a 16-inch gun with a rifle light, okay, and with a bipod, it basically gets too front heavy, and it's really hard for me to hold one-handed in an angle like this and do mag changes. It just especially if you got your front flip up sight there, and if you've got a bubble level back, which is really important at these distances at 500 yards. If you are canted, right? I mean, if you're canted, you can see how my fingers are moving here. That will easily throw you off 2 inches at 100 yards. Okay, so at 500 yards, if your cant is off, that'll easily throw you off. It'll throw you off the paper. It can easily move you 10 to 20 inches off the paper. Okay, just by being canted. So you gotta have a bubble level on the gun. And I got the Magpul flip up sights here. Right, these are the low profile ones. When I got these things were like $200 for the pair. The price has come down. They're like $70 now. I got these back in 2020. So they have to go in front of the optics, because the optics is something that I actually use. Okay, these things, they just sit there until the optics don't work. And with the Holosun, very reliable, hardly it almost never not works. So these things, they need to like basically stay out of my way, okay, unless I actually need them. So the good thing about the Magpoles is they're small enough that because it's a hybrid rail, right? There's no Picatinny rail in this section here. So this is the Magpole low profile ones is small enough that I can fit this bubble level behind it. I forgot the name of it. I'll have to put it in the video. I'll spell it out so you guys can see it. And then over here in this section over here, I've got the pressure pad, and the pressure pad's working really good because this is a hybrid rail. Even with the pressure pad on, it's small. It's like it doesn't like make the grip too fat. So I got the pressure pad here, and I covered this in another video. Basically, I made this cap here, right? You can see you got to have that cap. You got to basically make some type of a cover. Now you can get it. You can get one of your scope covers, and the rubber ones, and maybe you'll get it to fit there. But the problem with the black ones is that if you accidentally flip your light on, you're basically just going to run out your battery. So the good thing about this one that I made out of blue tape, right? I did a whole other video. You guys should look up the video. Is with this one, if I accidentally hit the light, I can see it. Okay, and that's also really useful for at night, right? Because if I drop something at night, I can point this down at my feet, and I can see my feet without blinding myself. Okay. Other thing I covered up in the video is like a lot of times when you grab your rifle, even if you have this pointed away from your face, if it's not covered, okay, and you hit this 1000 lumen light, okay, that is blind. At night, that is blinding. And this is a very powerful light. It doesn't have to be pointed into your face. Even if it's pointed away from your face, like a little bit lower, you're going to see spots, okay? You're going to lose your night vision. So that's why you got to keep this covered, right? And I did have a rubber one that I tried on here, but again, that was the issue that I couldn't see if I accidentally, because there's a button here where I can actually hit it and it just stays on, right? And that'll just run out your battery. So I want to be able to see it, especially at night if I flip it on. So that's why the blue tape one works really, really good. Okay, so and over here I got the CV Life bipod. Now this is one of the older ones that doesn't lock up, so I've got some bungee cord there to keep the legs in the up position, right? Because otherwise, when it's slung on my back, they'll come out. The new CV Life one, it actually locks in the up position. So that's really important. You want this to lock up because otherwise it's just going to catch stuff. Okay. So the bungee string, it's actually bungee string. I got it on Amazon. It was like $7 for like 75 feet of it. Okay. And the other thing that's good is I can use this bungee string to control the sling. I can just pull it through here, and now I can store this in the safe, and I'm not getting all tangled up with the sling. So even if you don't have a bipod on here, it's good to have the bungee string. Okay. So we got quick attach, CV Life, not CV Life. This is the Brash Tactical Fast Loop Sling. It's good because it's 75 inches long. Unfortunately, it's been discontinued. The closest thing I can find is the Tactical Pro Sports, which is only 56 inches, which kind of sucks if you're wearing a winter jacket or you're wearing like a plate carrier. It's just not long enough. So that's why I use this one. And this runs the entire length. I can make this long, I can make this short, and you can see how it comes all the way down. I've done videos where I'm talking about this, and then I can pull this up through the bungee cord here, and I can store it like this. So this is like a true do-it-all setup where this is great, for like CQB type of distance. I had the bipod legs are quick detach, right? So that's one of the things I don't like about the Magpole ones. You can't easily quick detach these. This one, it's covered up, like right here, it's got that quick detach right there. Right, so I can get this off really fast if I needed to. So that's why I'm using the CV Life rather than the Magpole ones. And then once you get the bipods, the bipod off of it, this becomes a very light, nimble rifle for, not just like being indoors, but also just doing stuff, right? Because a lot of times when you're doing stuff, you got to do other stuff. You got to carry stuff, right? So it's really convenient to have this 11.5 inch. It was not practical until I got this muzzle device that brought the sound down, that brought the flash down, and also as an added benefit brought the recoil down, because this thing is such a pleasure to shoot. I mean, I absolutely love this thing, man. So I've got all the benefits of having a short gun here without all that extra noise and flash and stuff like that. It gets me to 500 yards, right? It'll actually get me out to 500 yards. And the thing becomes now, okay, great, I got this 11.5 inch. What's it going to do at 500 yards with, delivering 286 foot-pounds of energy, okay? Well, 38, that's a 38 special, man. 38 specials are, a lot of people have been using it for self-defense for a very long time, okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that, inside of, let's say, 100 yards, yeah, you got to stop the threat, right? Because if you wound somebody inside of 100 yards, they may decide that their best chance of survival is to continue to attack forward and defeat you, okay? But past 100 yards, past 200 yards, right? Certainly out to 300 and 400 and 500 yards, if you wound somebody, okay, they're not going to continue to charge forward, 300 yards, 400 yards, 500 yards, right, in order to fight you, okay? If somebody gets wounded at 300, 400, 500 yards, they're going to determine that their best chance of survival is to turn around and get out of there, okay? So that's why, even though we're losing a lot of power at 500 yards with this 286 foot-pounds, right, we're still effective in the sense that it's going to make bad people go away. Now, in an SHTF scenario, yeah, I wouldn't be using the Wolf Gold. I'd be probably using the green tips, okay? So with the green tips, we're getting almost 390. We're getting 390 foot-pounds at 500 yards. Let's say 400 foot-pounds. I mean, that's like a 40 cal, okay? That will do the job. That will make people, think twice about continuing to charge forward, okay? So there's some thoughts on that. Like I said, I've done lots of videos on this rifle, but I haven't had it out to 500 yards in a while, and I basically couldn't really talk about this as an SHTF do-it-all rifle until I did I felt a more recent video where I had it out to 500 yards, and we can see what kind of accuracy it gets, okay? So let me give you guys another close-up of these energy numbers. So drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you all soon. All right, we're going for 500 yards with the 11.5-inch Palmetto. Wolf Gold. Also an ACSS. Let's go see what we got.